Before you scroll away, take a moment and think about your feet. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Because if your feet have been feeling a little numb, a little dry, or if you've noticed a small cut that just does not seem to heal the way it used to, your body might already be trying to tell you something important, something that many people miss for years. Most people believe diabetes shows up suddenly. One day you feel fine, then a blood test says otherwise. But that is not how it usually works. In reality, your body often sends quiet signals long before any test confirms it. And one of the first places those signals appear is somewhere most people rarely pay attention to in detail: their feet. In the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through 8 warning signs that can show up early, sometimes years before a diagnosis. These are signs many people brush off as normal, aging, or just tired feet at the end of a long day. But they're not always harmless. Once you understand what to look for, you may never see your feet the same way again. I want to speak to you in a simple, honest way, the same way I would talk to someone sitting right across from me. Over the years, I have met many people who were later diagnosed with diabetes, and almost all of them said the same thing. They had noticed small changes in their bodies, but they did not think those changes meant anything serious. And I understand that. When something does not hurt much, when it comes and goes, or when it feels like something that could be explained by age or daily habits, it is easy to ignore. You tell yourself it is just circulation, or maybe you sat too long, or your shoes are not as comfortable as they used to be. That kind of thinking is very common. But here is the part that matters. Many of those people were not careless. They were not ignoring their health on purpose. They simply did not know what their bodies were trying to tell them. No one had ever explained it in a clear, practical way. I remember one gentleman in particular. He came in for something that seemed minor at first. At that moment, neither he nor his family thought it had anything to do with blood sugar. But what we discovered changed the entire direction of his care. I will tell you his story in just a moment because it may sound more familiar than you expect. Before we get into the specific signs, it helps to understand what is quietly happening inside the body. I will keep this simple because once you see the picture clearly, everything else will make more sense. Your body runs on glucose, a form of sugar that acts like fuel. Every cell needs it to produce energy, just like a small engine needs gasoline to keep running. But glucose cannot enter your cells on its own. It needs a helper, a hormone called insulin. You can think of insulin as a key that opens the door and lets that fuel inside. When everything works well, this system stays balanced. But when insulin does not work properly, or when the body does not make enough of it, sugar starts to build up in the bloodstream. And over time, that excess sugar begins to cause damage. Now imagine thick, sticky liquid flowing through very tiny pipes. That is what high blood sugar is like, for your smallest blood vessels. These delicate vessels, along with the fine nerves that run alongside them, are the first to be affected. And where are these tiny vessels and nerves most concentrated? In your feet and lower legs. That is why the feet often become the first place where these early warning signs appear. Let me tell you about someone I will call Samuel. He was 58, recently retired, and living a fairly quiet life. He did not come to see me because he was worried about diabetes. In fact, that was the last thing on his mind. He came in because of a small sore on the bottom of his foot that just would not heal. He told me he first noticed it about 3 months earlier. It did not hurt much. It did not look serious. He thought it might have come from an old pair of shoes that rubbed the wrong way. So he covered it, kept walking, and tried not to think about it too much. But over time, it did not get better. It stayed there. Slowly, it became something he could no longer ignore. When I examined his feet, that one sore was only part of the story. There were other signs, quiet ones, that had likely been there for a long time. Changes in the skin, reduced sensation, subtle clues that had been building for at least a couple of years. When we checked his blood sugar, the answer became clear. He had type 2 diabetes, and it had been present long before that sore appeared. Samuel looked at me and said something I have never forgotten. He said his body had been trying to tell him, but he just did not understand the language. Now let us talk about the first 2 signs, and these are often the ones people notice early but do not take seriously. The first is a feeling of numbness or tingling in the feet. Some people describe it as a light buzzing. Others say it feels like tiny pins and needles, almost like when your foot falls asleep. But this time, it does not fully go away. It might come and go at first, especially after sitting for a while, and that is exactly why it is easy to dismiss. You move around a bit, and it feels slightly better, so you assume it is nothing important. But what is actually happening is that the small nerves in your feet are starting to lose their normal function. They are not sending signals the way they should. Over time, that numb feeling can become more constant, and your feet may feel less responsive than they used to. The second sign is almost the opposite, a burning or painful sensation, especially at night. Some people tell me it feels like their feet are on fire once they lie down and everything gets quiet. There is no injury, no visible cause, yet the discomfort is real and hard to ignore. This happens because damaged nerves do not just become weak, they can also send the wrong signals. Instead of silence, they create pain where there should be none. If you notice either of these patterns happening regularly, your body is asking for attention, not patience. The next two signs are a little easier to see, but they are also more serious if ignored. The third sign is a wound that takes longer than usual to heal. It could be a small cut, a blister, or even a crack in the skin. In a healthy body, something like that often improves within a few days. But when blood sugar has been high for a while, the small blood vessels that carry oxygen and nutrients are not working as well. Healing slows down. There is another problem layered on top of this. When sensation is reduced, you may not even notice how the injury started. A tight shoe, a small stone, a bit of friction over time. You do not feel it clearly, so the damage continues without your awareness. By the time you see it, the wound has already been there for days or weeks. The fourth sign is swelling in the feet or around the ankles. Many people notice a little swelling at the end of a long day, and that can be normal. But when the swelling is there, even in the morning, or it does not go away with rest, it deserves a closer look. This can happen because circulation is not as efficient, and fluid begins to collect in the lower part of the body. In some cases, it may also reflect how the kidneys are handling fluid balance. If swelling appears together with any other sign we have talked about, it is not something to brush aside. Now let us look at two signs that many people see but rarely connect to anything serious. The fifth sign is a change in the color or appearance of the skin on your feet or lower legs. This does not always happen suddenly. It can be gradual, and that is why it is often overlooked. You might notice areas that look slightly darker, maybe a brown or purplish tone, or spots that appear lighter than the surrounding skin. Some people also notice that the skin starts to look thin, shiny, or stretched in a way it did not before. These changes are not just cosmetic. They can reflect how well blood is flowing through that area. When circulation is reduced, the skin does not receive the same level of oxygen and nutrients, and its appearance begins to shift. The sixth sign is dry, cracked skin, especially around the heels or the ball of the foot. At first, it may seem like a simple skincare issue. You apply lotion, and for a short time, it feels better. But then the dryness returns, and sometimes small cracks begin to form. Those cracks may look minor, but they can become entry points for bacteria. When the body is not healing efficiently and the immune response is slower, even a small opening in the skin can lead to a bigger problem. If dryness keeps coming back despite regular care, it is worth paying attention to what your body may be trying to tell you. The last two signs are less commonly talked about, but they can reveal a lot about what has been happening over a longer period of time. The seventh sign is a gradual loss of hair on the lower legs and the tops of the feet. This change is easy to miss because it does not cause discomfort. It happens slowly, and many people assume it is just part of getting older. But hair growth depends on a healthy blood supply. When circulation to the lower legs is reduced, the hair follicles do not receive enough nourishment, and over time, they stop producing hair. If you notice that the hair on your lower legs has become thinner or has disappeared compared to the upper part of your legs, especially over months or years, it may be worth looking at the bigger picture of your circulation and overall metabolic health. The eighth sign is a change in the shape or structure of the foot. This is usually a later sign, and it suggests that nerve and muscle function have been affected for quite some time. You might notice your toes starting to curl, or certain areas of your foot becoming more prominent or harder due to pressure. As the small muscles in the foot weaken, they can no longer support the bones the way they once did. The balance shifts and the structure changes. If your foot shape has been gradually changing without a clear cause, it is not something to ignore. Let me bring everything together in a clear and simple way, because this is the moment where it all needs to make sense. We have talked about 8 different signs that can appear in your feet long before many people ever receive a diagnosis. Numbness or tingling that does not fully go away. A burning sensation, especially when you are resting at night. Small wounds that take much longer than expected to heal. Swelling in the feet or ankles that does not improve with rest. Changes in skin color or texture that were not there before. Dry, cracked skin that keeps coming back. A gradual loss of hair on the lower legs. And finally, changes in the shape or structure of the foot. Now here's the most important part. You do not need to have all 8 of these signs for them to matter. In fact, many people only experience 1 or 2 at first. That alone is enough reason to pay attention. These signs are not random. They are connected. They come from the same underlying process happening quietly over time. And the earlier you notice them, the more control you still have over what happens next. Now I want you to do something simple, but very important. Not later today, not tomorrow morning, right after this. Take off your shoes and your socks. Sit down somewhere comfortable and really look at your feet. Not a quick glance, but a careful look. Look at the color of your skin. Look at the heels, the toes, the sides of your feet. Notice if there are any cracks, any small cuts, any areas that look different from the rest. Then gently touch different parts of your feet. Ask yourself if both sides feel the same. Is there any area that feels less sensitive, or perhaps more uncomfortable than it should? Think back over the past few weeks or months. Have you felt that tingling sensation, that burning feeling at night? Have you noticed swelling that does not fully go away? If even one of these signs sounds familiar, this is the moment to take the next step. Schedule a visit with your doctor and ask specifically to have your blood sugar checked. A fasting glucose test and an HbA1c test can give you a clear picture. It is a simple step, but it can make a very big difference. Let me take you back to Samuel for a moment, because his story did not end the day he received his diagnosis. In many ways, that was just the beginning of him finally understanding what his body had been trying to tell him all along. After that visit, we put together a simple, structured plan. Nothing extreme, nothing overwhelming, just steady, consistent steps. He started managing his blood sugar with the right support, made a few changes to how he ate, and most importantly, he began paying attention to his feet every single day. Over time, things began to change. The sore that had worried him for months slowly healed. The numbness in his toes, which he had ignored for over a year, stopped getting worse and even improved in some areas. But what stayed with him the most was something he said during a follow-up visit. He told me, "I thought my body was being quiet. I didn't realize it had been speaking to me the whole time." And that is the part I want you to remember. Your body is not working against you. It is trying to protect you. The signals may be small, and they may come slowly, but they are there. The earlier you listen, the more you can do about it. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one clear and honest reminder. Everything we talked about today is meant to help you notice patterns, not to replace a proper medical evaluation. Seeing one or even several of these signs does not automatically mean you have diabetes, but it does mean your body deserves a closer look. If something you heard today feels familiar, do not push it aside or wait for it to become painful. A simple conversation with your doctor, along with the right tests, can give you clarity and peace of mind. And if everything turns out to be normal, that is good news you can hold on to. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone you care about, a friend, a partner, a family member. Sometimes one small piece of information, shared at the right time, can make a real difference. Take care of yourself, pay attention to the signals your body gives you, and remember, your health is something worth understanding, not guessing about.